Hi, everyone. It's wonderful to be here today. As you heard, today our panelists are Anya Freeman, the founder and CEO of Kind Designs. We also have Galen Treuer, who is the Climate Tech and Economic Innovation Manager for Miami-Dade County. So we'll kick it off, and my first question is for Galen. What does it mean to be designated as a climate-ready tech hub?
So we are a tech hub. We join 30 other communities across the country that are focused on place-based economic development for the technologies of the future. And we are one of 200 that applied. So we were selected by the federal government, and they gave us a stamp of approval saying, your vision for South Florida to be a global leader in commercializing and scaling climate technology is something that we agree on. We think that you should go forward and do this with our support. What that also meant was that we got to compete with those other 30 communities for funding. And so we put in an application with a consortium of 60 partners that is for $74 million. And we'll find out by the end of August whether or not we got funded. But whether we got funded or not, we are one of these elite tech hubs, and we are the only one that focuses on both climate adaptation and mitigation, so resilient communities.
So what is Miami-Dade County doing to commercially deploy climate tech in our community?
The county is doing all kinds of things. One of them was that I was put into the Office of Innovation and Economic Development 2 years ago to advance this vision that the mayor and the community has to be a climate tech hub. And we are, as a county, investing a lot of money, and we have been doing this for a long time, right? We invest a ton in resilience, and we have requirements for sustainable buildings. We've had requirements for sustainable buildings for over a decade, and we have requirements for sea level rise adaptation, and we have increased our stormwater requirements in the community. And I think in general, the other thing that we're doing is taking the convening power of local government to bring together all of the partners and get them on the table and really say, where do you want to go? What can you do? We believe in you, like we have done with Kind Design.
So that brings me to Anya. Kind Designs is an example of a climate tech startup, a really exciting one that we have in our community, right in our backyard. What is Kind Designs, and how is it an example of this commercial deployment of climate tech?
Thanks so much. Hi, everybody. Some of you know we really got our start here 1 year ago today at this conference. I was one of the startups with the little table, and I didn't even know it was like a big deal to be a part of this. I didn't have a sign. I had turtle stickers. Like, that's literally all I brought with me was turtle stickers. And then I realized, oh my God, it's a huge opportunity, and thank God we made it to the finals, which are happening tomorrow afternoon. And we didn't win, we should have won, but we're crowd favorites. But there were so many investors in the audience that within just a few months, we closed $5.5 million round. So thank you. And with that funding, we got a team, we got an amazing warehouse, and we started 3D printing living seawalls to protect our cities and all coastal cities from flooding, from rising sea levels. And we do that by printing walls from non-toxic concrete that are structurally identical to traditional seawalls, but they also function like reefs. They sequester carbon, they dissipate wave energy, they collect data, and they're beautiful, and there's no green premium. Our living seawalls are cheaper than traditional concrete walls, and I think that's why we've been able to move as quickly as we have and already install the world's first 3D printed seawalls in Miami 2 months ago.
And who do you work with when it comes to installing these seawalls? How does that work?
Contractors. So we're like solving a big pain point for contractors. They used to make their own concrete slabs for these seawalls. It takes so much space, so much time. They hate handling them. Instead, we just deliver them the panels for the same price as it costs them to make their own, and they can just install them. So that's why it's kind of a no-brainer for all the contractors to buy our panels instead of making their own.
Can you quickly tell us why you chose to launch Kind Designs in Miami?
I think Well, the whole reason this idea was born was because I lived here. I had a totally different life before. I was a lawyer, like a good immigrant child. My papa is here. We're from Ukraine, and so I went to law school, to fulfill his dreams, and that's how I came to Miami. And I was living in South Beach, enjoying my life. I was working as a prosecutor, and I started to notice my house was sinking. Worse and worse every year. And then my roommates and I, we got a letter even saying flood insurance was canceled for our cars because it was so common for cars to just float away in South Beach. And so I just became very curious about this phenomenon of flooding, rising sea levels, and I saw that there was a lot of conversation around the problem, but it's very doom and gloom. Like, you have to be crazy to buy a house in South Florida. We're all going to be underwater. And nobody was looking at solutions. And that's what inspired me to dive in, put together a team, and come up with something to protect and save our city and make Miami an example for all 507 coastal cities that are also at risk from rising sea levels.
So I read this stat that by 2040, 50,000 miles of marine habitats will be contaminated because of traditional seawalls. How does the 3D printed seawalls developed by Kind Designs help solve this problem?
So traditional seawalls are problematic for two reasons. One, they're very expensive. If any of you live on the water, it's a very expensive project, seawalls. But number two, traditional seawalls destroy marine habitats because they leach chemicals and because they're flat. Nothing can attach to a flat wall, so all the sea life migrates. We are replacing 50,000 miles of these toxic seawalls with reefs. Because our living seawalls, through the 3D printing technology, one, we can print them exponentially faster, which creates these amazing economics. We print a 10-foot by 10-foot seawall in 1 hour. And we have really high resolution printer, the highest in the world. So the layers are so small, we can incorporate design elements on the wet face of the seawall that mimic mangrove roots. So the seawall now is not only structural, but now it also functions like a reef because the sea life can hide in the caves, they can attach to the rugosity, the texture, and the micro design elements of the wall.
And going back to Galen, I'm wondering, what kind of role will the private sector play in turning Miami-Dade truly into a climate-ready tech hub?
Well, we're not going to do that. We're not going to do this without the private sector, right? The county contracts. We contract the same people to build our seawalls, right, and to build the port and redo the port, and so we have to work with them. But in addition, the government and the community only exists here because people can live here and work here and be here. So we need that. And also we're bringing in all this innovation, right? And I think that the thing that I am taking away right now from our tech hub work and from what you're saying is that we really do need to bring all the players together because the private sector can't do this alone. One of the things that's really exciting about the tech hub is we're getting together the stories, and one of the stories is that South Florida already is a global leader in this kind of technology, right? This is green-gray, living shoreline technology. They're not the only company. There are at least 4 down here, and they're tied into other pieces of the supply chain, and they're tied into existing good jobs, important jobs like installing seawalls. And if we can do this more efficiently and more effectively, we can raise the quality of those jobs. So I think it's kind of a long way of saying, like, we have to work with them and they have to work with us because we need to adjust some of our regulations. We need to make sure that the workforce is there, right? That they can get trained in. We've been talking with FIU about additive manufacturing training, and we're working on securing funding for that as well. And then another piece of it, something that really has distinguished us, is our universities, which need to do the research to prove that these seawalls do work better and that the life does attach there. Because it's really nice to say it, it's really important, and it's allowed Anya to drive that vision forward, but now we need the data to prove that it works and to show that you can actually get value for it. So yes, you can make the wall at the same price, but you might be able to get paid for the ecosystem benefits. And you can do that once we quantify it. But Anya can't do that alone. She needs to work with the researchers down here.